Hello, everyone. This is a microdose episode of Beyond the Limits, focusing on vitamins. Please do go back and listen to the whole episode, and there are special bonus points available for anyone who can identify the mild panic in both myself and Matt's voices as we recorded this episode for the third time for fear of being sued. This is Beyond the Limits, and this is vitamins.
Vitamins and supplements are a massive business now, with over 90,000 products available in the US and the UK supplements market valued at over £20 billion. With an increase in health promotion and wellness, interest is higher than ever, with 30% of adults in the UK reported to consume supplements.
The number of people being admitted to hospital in England currently because of lack of vitamins or minerals is soaring. So actually we're seeing an 11% increase from previous years. So there's an issue there, and that whether that is suggestive of poor diet and whether that is because healthy foods are more expensive, I don't know. Those are a couple of the theories postulated. The other side of this, though, is that honestly, seemingly every day I'm seeing adverts for vitamins and for supplements and even IV infusion clinics that essentially are promising the world improvement in your immunity, in your mood, in your energy levels. You know, the central question that we want to try and answer here is related to multivitamins because, I mean, there are just so many supplements and vitamins out there. Is this something that we're going to add to our daily life?
And a quick rundown of some of the absolutely essential ones. Iron is a must-have mineral. It's quite a common deficiency actually in the Western society, and that's because obviously women are menstruating, and iron is a mineral that's lost when we bleed. It's critically important for the transportation of oxygen around the body, and if untreated, it causes anemia.
Vitamin D, perhaps it's underappreciated just how common vitamin D deficiency is. So only about 10% of our vitamin D requirements come from ingesting food. So the vast majority is actually synthesized in the skin, and it's difficult to get adequate levels through the skin for most of the year, for at least 6 months of the year in the UK. Looking at the guidance in terms of who should be taking vitamin D, so you've got your two groups, your individuals with low sun exposure, and ethnic minorities with dark skin too. I think we'd add into that pregnant women and those breastfeeding. But then actually, if we look at the age range, anyone under 4 should be on vitamin D all year. Anyone over 65, likewise. And then those in that middle ground, the 5 to 64, we should be considering this for at least 6 months of the year in the winter months.
Nutritional studies are mainly done as observational studies. This is often considered some of the lowest quality evidence because there's so many confounding factors. So when you're giving someone a vitamin, even if it's blinded, a cohort have the vitamin, a cohort have the placebo, you're then observing them for a period of 5, 10, ideally their whole life. You then ideally need to control the other independent things that go on in their life, whether they smoke, whether they exercise, whether they actually get enough sunlight, whether they surf, whether they play golf. All of these things will play into the end indicators that you're looking for. And I think that's why the evidence can be so challenging and conflicting.
It feels like every time I go past a billboard, it's a company recommending their new shiny capsules that are going to reinvigorate you and change your life. And it's really difficult looking at them to know exactly what is in them. And I think that's where a lot of this uncertainty comes from.
I'm going to start with a product called AG1. This is a massive company, now valued at over 1.2 billion. It'll cost you about £100 a month to subscribe to this product. It has 75 different ingredients, all with beautiful accompanying pictures on their catalogue on their website, detailing why they're so good for you individually. It's very clever in being impressive in its health claims, but also vague enough to avoid any material lawsuit or dispute later down the line. The clinical trials, when trying to review them for the AG1, are small. These are observational studies. They're sponsored by the manufacturer and they're only run for a few weeks. So essentially, these aren't very helpful, I don't think.
Interesting. The counter to this is that lack of evidence doesn't mean that there isn't efficacy. So whereas the trials haven't demonstrated anything at the moment, we've already outlined the difficulty with these trials. So it's difficult to say that this doesn't work, but equally there isn't a lot of evidence that it does.
The bottom line is that this is a very expensive product, and it's speculative at best when considering any evidence that this is going to do you any good. And I don't think anyone knows long term whether taking this, you could actually be exposing yourself to some harm.
What I took away from this was a couple of things. I mean, I still find the stat about hospital admissions on the basis of vitamin and mineral deficiency quite depressing. But as a whole, I mean, it made me think, God, I should probably be taking some vitamin D, and the importance of those non-negotiables and having a really balanced and varied diet. And I think that's still going to be the key takeaway point. In terms of vitamins, I'm fairly open-minded about this. I think it's unlikely to be particularly harmful taking a daily multivitamin. I'll do their own research and look at the products very carefully and decide what works for them. Then I don't have a huge issue with it.
There's lots of contradictory stuff in terms of evidence. I think supplement companies are likely to overpromise and underdeliver. I think proving efficacy of these is fraught with complexity, is very expensive, and is surprisingly not actually needed for them to bring products to market. Some inexpensive multivitamins, vitamin D, omega-3 complexes, some of the more backed supplements might be a good way of hedging your bets. I think it's going to help a small number of people, but it certainly, like you said, should not replace a healthy diet. I probably am going to go and get a multivitamin and just take it once a day, but I'm also going to be reaching for some fruit and veg as well.